know he's going for. Chris? Yep. Mark, you've been tipped off about our question of the day. Who would your top three have been in the Ballon d'Or if you got a nomination?
Well, my view on it would probably be, I'm not quite sure, but the top three words, but it's probably close to what I'm going to say, but I would have said Ronaldo, Messi and Neuer.
They were the top three.
Were they? Oh, there you go. Great minds think alike.
Good man, thank you for doing that. And on a more serious note, Robert Huth's fallen foul of the new FA social media task force this week. An interesting one for debate that. As his manager, how angry with him are you? What's your view on it?
There is an issue with social media surrounding football players or any player or person in the public eye, and you have to be very, very careful if you say anything or get involved in actions that other people have an issue with, then there's a possibility that you will get pulled up on it and the FA will get involved, and that's the situation we find ourselves in. Obviously, Robert was very quickly mindful of maybe people being upset about it, so he apologised immediately, took it down, and we hope that was the end of it. But obviously the FA have looked at it and think he needs to explain his actions, so I think that process is ongoing, so we'll see where it leads.
Will he be a Stoke player for much longer? There are lots of reports linking him with loan moves now to Watford and other places.
Yeah, I've had discussion with Robert. I think it's fair to say he needs games. He hasn't obviously been available to me for the most part since I've been here. Started obviously in the team when I initially came here, but then had an injury with his knee and was compromised by that. What he needs now is games. It's difficult for me to put him straight in after such a period out of the team, so we're looking to try and get him some game time if we can. It needs to be the right club, it needs to be the right opportunity for Robert himself, and if we can find that, then it makes sense to us as a club and to Robert as well. Obviously we want to get games into him so that he's fit and ready for us.
Glenn Whelan's contract talks have been going on for a while now. We've been told they've broken down, that he wants 2 years and the club are only prepared to offer him 1 year.
I think those discussions are ongoing. I think.
Are you worried about it though? Is he very much part of your thoughts?
Yeah, Glenn knows our feelings on that. Obviously, these discussions I think began at the beginning of the year. So obviously, as the years gone on, that offer in terms of duration diminishes. So the discussion over the extra year obviously becomes more important because we're halfway through one of the years that we were offering. So we're hopeful that something will be resolved very, very quickly. There needs to be ongoing discussions and further discussions, but we're hopeful something will be concluded.
Asaidi's moved away from you now. His loan deal's come to an end. Does that free up a place for you? It certainly frees up a loan possibility for you, doesn't it? Does it mean you're looking for a player in that position of that ilk?
Yeah, we'll look at it. I mean, the situation with Asaidi was one that, in fairness, I couldn't give him enough game time, enough to keep him happy, really. It wasn't really at his best when he was out with the team. He wanted to play, he came here to play. He was hampered, obviously, by the form of Victor Moses coming here and tearing the place up, really, initially when he first came here before his injury. So there was a little bit of frustration on his part. In the end, there was an offer on the table for him. From our point of view, I was more comfortable in terms of allowing it to happen once I knew Victor Moses was back available, which he is now. So that's why we allowed it to go ahead. But his first year here, obviously did great for us. It wasn't as successful the second season loan, so in the end it was probably best for all parties that it was concluded in the way it was.
You've been strongly linked with Aaron Lennon. Is the truth in your interest in him?
Well, there's a lot of players out there that we don't really like talking about players that we haven't brought to the club. There's going to be lots of those names bandied about. I'm not sure about his own situation. The situation of players change in this month it seems on a daily basis. So we'll look at opportunities if they make sense to us. Then obviously we have areas of the team that we think we can improve on if we can get the right players in. But we'll have to keep, for the moment, our cards close to our chest, so we can't really tell you one way or the other. But as soon as we know something, we'll tell you.
I was going to ask you about Edin Dzeko next, but I suppose it's the same answer then, is it?
Well, I can tell you straight, there's no well, there would be interest if it was ever viable, but it's not one that we could ever contemplate doing, unfortunately.
Thanks, Mark.
I was just wondering, Leicester and QPR next 2 games, it's a vital period for you. How much of the recovery from this defeat at Arsenal are you hoping for in players in these 2 games?
We didn't have a great performance against Arsenal. We were disappointed in what we were able to produce. On the day, Arsenal were significantly better than us. I think they'd been spiked somewhat by their performance against us at the Britannia, where we were by far the better team. So they certainly came out of the blocks with an attitude that allowed them to get forward in the game, got in the lead very, very quickly, and we found it difficult to cope with them. So that can happen when you go up against a team like Arsenal. Prior to that, I've been delighted with what we produced. So in terms of confidence, I don't think we're diminished in any way, shape or form. I think we're in good heart. We've had a setback, but it was a difficult fixture for us anyway. We didn't really negotiate the fixture as well as we wanted to, but we always knew it was going to be a difficult place to go there. I don't think we've ever won at the Emirates, but our performances prior to our game against Arsenal were solid and going in the right direction, so we fully anticipate we'll get back to those levels very, very quickly, because the Arsenal result, although disappointing, would have diminished the confidence in what we know we can produce if we play more.
Leicester look rejuvenated at the moment. They've had a good couple of weeks. I mean, how difficult and how different a game is it going to be at the King Power than it was perhaps at Arsenal?
Yeah, different type of game altogether. Different teams, different approach. You're right in saying that they've seemed to have found a little bit of form. Certainly haven't been tailed off. I think there was a point, maybe 4 or 5 games ago, where there was the danger that they might be cut adrift, but that hasn't happened, and they're very much in the mix, and it's all Constantine is down the bottom. So they'll be enthused by that, so it's a difficult game for us, but every game's difficult. We know that whoever we go up against in the Premier League, they're always going to fight from the first minute to the last. You have to accept that. Away from home as well, it's even more difficult. So we have to improve on what we produced at Arsenal. I'm fully confident that certainly we will. And we'll see what we have to face against Leicester. As you say, they're in a run of form that will encourage them and make them think that this is a game that they can win. But we feel that ourselves as well, so we'll see how it goes.
How significant will the return of Victor Moses be? I mean, I don't know whether he's on the fringe or whether he'll be starting this weekend, but you described him earlier in the season as one of your most penetrative players, really.
He's benefited from another week's training. He was on the bench against Arsenal, but given the circumstances of the game, I don't think it was worth putting him at risk. He'd only had 2 or 3 sessions with us since he'd come back from the injury and back from Chelsea, so he's benefited from, as I said, another week's training, so he's in a much better place now, so he's very much in my thoughts for the weekend. Hopefully, if he does play, he'll be able to hit the performance levels that he was reaching prior to the injury, because, as you said, before his injury, arguably he was our best player. Thankfully, Bojan came back into the team in and around the same time and took with the mantle and led the team from the front with this level of performances. So if we can get them both firing at the ball, both at the same time, then we'll be in good shape.
Good thing.
Mark, obviously Leicester were the team that were bottom of the league on Christmas Day, and there's always a bit of a stigma attached to that, but they were pretty good here earlier in the season. You've seen how good they can be, and obviously they've had a bit of a revival recently. given all that, would you expect them to stay up this season? Do you think they can?
It's a tough call. I mean, historically, it's difficult to stay up when you've been bought at Christmas, but it has been done. It has been done in the past. So they'll be encouraged, as I said earlier, that by virtue of their last few games, when they've gone up against good teams and given a good account of themselves. More importantly, they picked up points. I think from their point of view, from now to the end of the season, it's important that they start to win games, because although you can console yourself sometimes when you're down the bottom and you have a good performance, you get a battling draw. The reality of the situation is doesn't move you in the table. Only wins do that. So they'll be looking to be really positive against us, but we have to be ready for that and make sure that we don't get overtaken by what they can produce, and make sure that we produce what we know we can.
Given what they've got in their squad, do you think they're capable? Do you think
they're a good side? Yeah, they came here and made it difficult for us. I think it's fair to say they probably had 1 or 2 shots on goal, scored with 1, and then defended really strongly against us, and we found it difficult to break them down. In fairness, it might be a little bit easier for us, I would suggest, away from home, because the onus is always on the home team to take the game to the opposition, so maybe they will be a little bit more open than they possibly were when we played them here.
Just finally on Robert Huth, when you talk about the possibility of him going out and getting games, are you very much thinking in terms of a loan deal for him, and therefore you wouldn't say he has no further future here? You can imagine.
No, not at all. The intention is to get him some game time, because that's what he's lacking. He hasn't had games of the right level to bring him on. We've obviously, he's been in around the first team group, he's been training with the first team group, but we found it difficult to really get him good quality games. The under-21 games probably isn't the right environment for him as a senior player, so he needs to get out, play games of meaning, and at the moment it's difficult to get him into my team. So if we find the right team for him and he gets the game time that he needs, then hopefully he get 5 or 6 games, and then he can come back to us and be ready to go again.
Mark, there was a lot of talk last weekend about the number of goals Stoke are conceding from set pieces. They reckon it was like half the goals that you've conceded this season. Is it a major worry for you? Is it was just a random stat?
No, I think we have conceded goals. We've been disappointed when set plays have gone against us. We've had, people have to understand it's not just corners, it's wide free kicks, it's penalties against. They all get thrown into the mix to make the stat a little bit more damning. So we're aware of that, but we can be better, certainly in certain situations. We give players responsibilities to ensure that opposition players don't score against us on set plays. Sometimes we haven't been able to make sure those responsibilities are made, and opposition players don't score against us. We have to be better. We were good last year. For some reason this year we haven't been quite as good, but let's see what the start's like at the end of the season, because we're working on it, we're addressing it. We just need to make sure we take responsibility and make sure we don't concede anymore.
The Leicester game is the start of a sequence of about 10 or 11 games where you only have to play, I think, one top 9 side. Is this a sort of major push now from Leicester onwards?
Well, we like to think so. We just come through a period after the Arsenal game where it's a really hard and strong period that we had to get through. Played Man United twice, Arsenal twice, Chelsea. You know the fixtures that we've gone through. So it wasn't easy, but as you allude to, the consequence of that, and the flip side of that, is that you get an opportunity to maybe play teams that are in and around us, and it's not as, I think the word labelled to it was a brutal period, so maybe it'll be less brutal and we'll be able to pick more points. So we did really well, I have to say. That we're really delighted with the points accrued in the games that I've just mentioned. So given that, hopefully we'll continue in the same vein.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.